Caribbean Newsline is brought to you by the Barbados Tourism Marketing Inc.
Antigua and Barbuda reeled in to the probe into an international bribery scheme. That's our top story in Caribbean Newsline for Tuesday, June 6. From the CMC News Center in Bridgetown, I'm Nicole Best. Good evening. Director of Public Prosecutions Anthony Armstrong has confirmed that a request has been made by Argentina for information about accounts at an offshore bank in Antigua that were used to pay bribes in an intercontinental corruption scandal. Argentine prosecutors are seeking information about the Mainel Bank in relation to the Albrecht corruption scandal. In a lawsuit filed against Brazilian conglomerate in an U.S. court late last year, an unnamed bank in the Twin Island nation was listed as one of the company's favored financial institutions in the corruption scandal. The suit accused the company of paying bribes in excess of $788 million to illegally secure projects in multiple countries, including Brazil, Venezuela, Guatemala, the Dominican Republic, and Mozambique. We get more in this report from Jamie Roger of ABS News.
The request was reportedly made on behalf of a prosecutor investigating the potential kickbacks in the construction of an underground railway between Buenos Aires City and the province in Argentina. Director of Public Prosecutions Anthony Armstrong is quoted as saying his team is working as hard as possible to process the request, which was made under a treaty between the two countries that allows for sharing of information in criminal cases. The task has been described as laborious because it requires getting court orders to secure records of transactions and other confidential information, as well as to freeze accounts. In February, the Antigua and Barbuda Financial Services Regulatory Commission removed 3 of the directors from the board of Mainel Offshore Bank and appointed an official administrator of the bank. Odebrecht officials admitted to U.S. courts that they bought Mainel Bank in late 2010 to funnel part of $788 million worth of kickbacks to politicians, business executives, and regulators around the world. The Brazilian construction company has confessed to operating a vast bribery network for more than a decade across Latin America. In Argentina alone, Odebrecht admitted to paying $35 million in bribes between 2007 and 2014. Details of those payments have the potential to help incriminate members of the former Argentine President Cristina Fernández de Kirchner's government, as well as allies of current President Mauricio Macri.
The election bell could ring in Bermuda any time now. Premier Michael Dunkley put citizens on notice after his One Bermuda Alliance presented 4 of its election candidates on Monday.
We've formally rolled out 25% of our candidates for the next general election. We have the experience, we have the fresh new faces, we have the diversity, and we have the ability to get the job done with the people that we've laid out. It won't be long before people have the opportunity to go to the polls.
Dunkley's announcement came days ahead of a possible vote on a motion of no confidence in him on Friday. And that's if Parliament isn't dissolved before then for election. The motion is being brought by Opposition Leader David Burt. The last general election was held in December 2012 and saw the OBA win by a margin of 19-17, but 2 MPs resigned from the OBA to sit as independents, so both parties now hold 17 seats. And still in Bermuda, a London-born pastor on Monday won his legal challenge against a decision by Home Affairs Minister Patricia Gordon-Pamplin not to grant him a work permit. Chief Justice Ian Kaweli also quashed the directive that Reverend Nicholas Tweed, an outspoken critic of the government, pack up and leave the country. The non-renewal of Tweed's work permit sparked demonstrations last year, and his legal team had claimed that Minister Gordon Pamplin's denial of the permit was influenced by a visceral negative attitude on her part. Gordon Pamplin had previously said she was a long-time worshipper at the African Methodist Episcopal, that's the AME Church, but stopped going when Tweed began attacking the government from the pulpit. In his ruling quashing the minister's decision, the Chief Justice also raised some issues related to the issuing of work permits in Bermuda. Gary Moreno of ZBM News reports.
Mr. Justice Kawali, in delivering his ruling, indicated the legal and policy basis as they relate to how work permit applications are handled could do with some fine-tuning. He pointed out that while the work permit policy states most work permit applications are decided by the board as delegated by the minister, this matter showed no such delegation had occurred. He stated, in the interest of good public administration, this delegation of power to the Board of Immigration should take place in order that the board would have full legal competence to adjudicate politically neutral decisions on any ordinary individual work permit. Further, Mr. Justice Kawali deemed it unsatisfactory that the board has no legal authority to make substantive decisions in work permit applications, even if in practice it is the real decision maker in most cases. He goes on that contrary to the legitimate expectations of applicants, the minister has the legal right to fully assume command and control of an application. He adds that the minister, Patricia Gordon Pamplin's involvement in Reverend Tweed's application was not due to her desire to interfere, but because her predecessor had directed that any further work permit applications in relation to Reverend Tweed should be decided by the minister. Minister Pamplin's predecessor, you may remember, was Senator Michael Fay. As such, although the Council of AME Churches had been told that its application was going to be decided by the Board of Immigration, the board only acted in an advisory capacity, and it was the minister who made the decision. Quote, this legal and factual confusion infected the entire process, with the minister refusing the application for an advertising waiver and a work permit without the work permit application being considered on its merits. This resulted in procedural irregularity and unfairness, which obliges the court to grant an order quashing the minister's decision not to grant the advertising waiver and refuse the work permit application, unquote. However, that order also sends the matter back to the minister for reconsideration. Mr. Justice Kawali, though, suggesting it would be desirable that the minister acted on the advice of the Board of Immigration. As it pertains to Reverend Tweed having to settle his affairs and leave the island, the Chief Justice determined that decision should not have been made without Reverend Tweed having the opportunity to make representation about his personal residential connections to the island. Reverend Tweed is the father of a Bermudian child and is married to a Bermudian, even though they live apart.
After the hearing, Reverend Tweed said that he would not be making any comment, but the Home Affairs Minister did. Although the court ruled against her decision, she said it cleared her of any allegations of bias.
It was very clear in the judge's judgment, in the CJ's judgment, was the fact that the assertion that I was biased in the determination of the case has been totally rejected. So I'm very, very pleased about that. What he said is that he felt that I actually made it a point to operate under a principled position, and I think I'm very pleased about that. Obviously, he found some shortcomings with respect to procedural matters, which we will have to look at to make the determination as to how best to rehear this particular application.
In Trinidad and Tobago, there was no swearing-in of 2 new High Court judges Tuesday morning as planned after an injunction granting an emergency court sitting on Monday night forced officials to call it off. Hours after President Anthony Carmona's office announced the swearing-in of Kathy Ann Waterman and Jacqueline Wilson for 11:30 a.m. Tuesday, Justice Frank Sipasad granted an injunction to former Attorney General Anand Ramlogan, who was representing former Government Minister Devant Maharaj. They had requested that no judicial appointments take place until the hearing of the case in which the Judicial and Legal Services Commission is alleged to have unconstitutionally and illegally comprised because it has 2 retired judges. In granting the injunction, Justice Sipasad ruled the public interest and its confidence in the judiciary far outweigh the appointments of the 2 new judges. And coming up in Caribbean Newsline, PAHO calls for immediate action to be taken on a landfill in the Bahamas. We'll tell you why after the break.
Beautiful Barbados and 4D Entertainment welcome you to the Flow Soca on the Hill, Sunday, July 23rd, 2017, where the mega stars of Crop Over 2017 assemble with the Caribbean Fest. Patrice, Skinny Fabulous, Ricky T, Orlando Octave, and Ultimate Rejects to bring you the world's greatest soca party, the Flow Soca on the Hill. Let's gather the people.
Ravenel's Resort and Conference Center is the mecca of conferences in the island of Tobago. The state-of-the-art facility caters to executive forums, weddings, banquets, training, elegant dining, and tranquil accommodations. Guests at Ravenel's Resort can choose from self-catering, standard, deluxe, and executive rooms. Sit at the poolside and savor the ambience of nature, or enjoy a sumptuous meal on the terrace and inside the Bouvardia restaurant. Let's go to Ravenel's Resort and Conference Center, the tranquil Caribbean Resort. Call 868-639-9666 or visit our website at www.rovenelsresorttobago.com.
Follow your heart to the 21st edition of the St. Kitts Music Festival from the 22nd to the 24th of June, featuring Shabba Ranks, Ultimate Rejects, The Boozman, Mobado, Jack Pure, DJ Private Riot, and back together again, Square One. Also performing Third Word, Voice, King Mighty Chalk Dust, Credence Clearwater Revisited, Ed Robinson, Ricardo Drew, Tedison John, Felicia Ross, Brianna D, Lyrical, and Goo Goo Dolls. For more information, log on to www.stkitsmusicfestival.net.
Welcome back. We continue in the Bahamas. The Pan American Health Organization, PAHO, is calling for immediate action to be taken on the New Province landfill that has been plagued by frequent fires. PAHO officials visited the site in April after a 3-week-long fire in March. It led to the facility being categorized as an urgent health hazard. Health Minister Dr. Dwayne Sands says government is aiming for a complete deconstruction of the landfill because public safety is a top priority. Cleopatra Murphy of ZNS Network News has the details of the PAHO report as well as government's plan to address the issue.
Report from the Pan American Health Organization has branded the New Providence sanitary landfill as an urgent public health hazard and recommends intervention to stop people from being exposed in the short term. The report that was carried out in the wake of the massive March 5th fire at the landfill that lasted 3 weeks and displaced residents of Jubilee Gardens and Victoria Gardens warns that landfill-related exposure could lead to health hazards both on-site and in the surrounding communities. Health Minister the Honorable Dr. Dwayne Sands shared government's short-term goals to address landfill challenges.
There has to be a particular approach and an availability of staff to identify when spontaneous combustion occurs, to ensure that it's put out as quickly as possible, to ensure that the garbage is compacted and covered on a regular basis until such time as we can, as I've used the term before, deconstruct the site and use a different approach moving forward. So bulldozers, people to run the bulldozers, enough fill to cover the daily collected garbage.
Other plans include enhancing landfill security, including emergency plans for surrounding communities and a national communication campaign to discourage the use of private wells.
We are going to follow the recommendations of the Pan American Health Organization in terms of the screening of a particular group of individuals to determine the chronic exposure, and we, having initiated the formation of a task force, are prepared to have a hotline to answer any questions that the public may have.
The report listed biological threats that can result from inadequate waste disposal. Smoke from wood and tires, asbestos, and air particles were listed among others. Air, dust, soil, and water are areas of concern, with the report pointing out that in the days after the fire, clinic staff reported an increase in patients being treated for respiratory symptoms. The report concludes that the water table and aquifer are at high risk of being polluted by the landfill and can be a health issue for those using private wells. The report also notes that landfill employees who work without proper protective gear and are not receiving health surveillance needed for those exposed to hazardous chemicals are vulnerable to effects. Pregnant women in the surrounding communities, the elderly, and children are also at risk, with the report stating children are especially vulnerable because they respond differently to environmental factors and their immune systems are not matured.
Jamaica is dismissing claims made in a United Nations report that there is an increase in HIV cases in the island. UN Special Envoy on HIV to the Caribbean, Dr. Edward Green, said recently that the findings in the 2016 UN AIDS Gap report indicate that HIV infections are on the rise in the region, with the major increases occurring in Cuba and Jamaica. But Jamaica's Chief Medical Officer, Dr. Winston De La Haye, says the data from the Health Ministry contradicts that report.
I've gone to the books and brought up our prevalence from 2000 until 2015, last 15 years. What I'm looking at in all age groups I'm looking at, broken down by gender, women versus men. In none of these am I seeing anything confirming what's written as it relates to Jamaica's prevalence. Again, I also know the person who supposedly gave the interview, and I've sent an email to him just to verify what in fact was said, because based on what I read and the information I'm now looking at as we speak, it doesn't compute.
Tourism officials are concerned that Caribbean countries could lose their cultural authenticity within the next decade if steps are not taken to preserve the cultural identity in each island. As the annual Caribbean Tourism Week began in New York on Monday night, industry players and Caribbean diaspora representatives agreed that the region was selling itself short when it came to that segment of the tourism industry. The assessment was made during a panel discussion at the Caribbean Diaspora Forum at the Medgar Evers College in Brooklyn, New York. Chief Executive Officer of Global Enterprises Management Solutions of St. Lucia, Wilson Batiste, said one of the critical steps toward capitalizing on the economic benefits of cultural and heritage tourism in the region is educating the population and the diaspora on its benefits.
In order for us to understand and fully address the challenges, we must properly define that segment of the tourism sector. Who owns it? Where are they located? And how can they be used to alleviate the level of poverty in certain sectors of Caribbean societies? In addition to that, we have to look at the value of cultural and heritage tourism to the global tourism sector. It is a growing sector that will provide the Caribbean with tremendous potential for growth. However, we have to be able to understand who the cultural tourists are.
And ahead in Newsline Sport, West Indies on the giving end of a whitewash in the T20 International Series against Afghanistan. Stay with us. Sport is next.
The Sajiko Cahill School of Business and Management invites you to attend Navigating a Path to Growth, a risk and competitive intelligence conference at Hilton Barbados Resort on June 26th and 27th, 2017. Speakers include Global Strategy and Risk expert Dr. Andrea Schotter, Regional PwC Risk Assurance Leader Bruce Scott, Miss Lisa Padmore, Dr. Delisle Worrell, Mr. Ian D'Souza, Professor Patrick Hossain, Professor Gillian Marcel, and many others. For more information, call 246-424-7731 or visit www.uwichsb.org. Secure your space today.
Dancing and whining and fretting till the morning. If you like drinking, masquerading, live music always playing. If you like islands of blue seas where people always smiling. If you like street jams and bandstands where people will be jamming. Don't you miss this time, no. In this Culturama 43, our festival, our legacy. Don't you miss this time, no.
In a place where legends start, the beach is just the beginning. So live a little for the exhilaration and the colour of every moment, where time is and life is a spirited event. Immerse yourself in the culture, the music, the people, the island. Love Antigua and Barbuda. Embrace an experience that leaves you breathless, from cricket to sailing week to carnival and more. Antigua and Barbuda, the beach is just the beginning.
Veteran batsman Marlon Samuels dominated with a classy career-best half-century as West Indies brushed aside minnows Afghanistan by 7 wickets in the final T20 International to sweep the 3-match series on Monday night. Batting first, Afghan batsman Mohammad Nabi blasted 38 of 30 deliveries, while opener Noor Ali's exciting cameo 35 required all of 19 balls. Wicketkeeper Shafiqullah chimed in with an entertaining 25 off 15 balls. Outstanding rookie seamer Kesrick Williams had earlier grabbed 3 for 34 to help restrict Afghanistan to 146 for 6 of their 20 overs. Chasing an uncomplicated 147 for victory at Warner Park, the hosts reached their target with 4 balls to spare, with the right-handed Samuel finishing unbeaten on a superb 89 from 66 deliveries to earn Man of the Match and Man of the Series honours. Jason Mohammed ended on 23 not out, adding 65 with Samuels in unbroken 4th wicket stand, which required 39 balls.
He really came into his own and played extremely well. That was Chadwick Walton for the first wicket. Went for naught. Samuels, as I mentioned, started a little shakily, but then really got his stride and played some lovely shots. And Afghanistan had no answer to him. Marlon Samuels could not.
Evan Lewis again looked to be in good nick, getting a start, but he was unable to go on. When he did that, though, he found the boundary pretty easily. And that partnership that he put on with Samuels was crucial, because West Indies lost a wicket with not a run on the board, and Chadwick Walton was dismissed in the first over. This was a crucial period for Afghanistan. That's when they put Samuels down. He was only 40, and then this wicket could have turned the tide. But we saw 2 very useful partnerships with Lendl Simmons first of all, and after that big 6 that he swatted, very next ball gifted his hand. Simmons has been sloppy in these T20s. Samuels found a very valiant partner in Mohammed to get to his innings of 89.
And the good thing about Marlon Samuels' knock is that he took it right to the end. He didn't give it away. And he made sure that he was at the end when West Indies attained victory. A couple of good blows by Jason Mohammed as well. But it was Marlon Samuels' show. And that was it. West Indies won by 7 wickets.
And Samuels gave his assessment of his performance after the match.
Well, I've been batting well, playing the role that the team requires and the team asks me to play. Early wickets, go out there and build a partnership, bring it back together, keep the innings together, get a good start, go out there and step on the gas a little bit and still control the innings. So playing the role that the team wants. So yeah, it worked out good for us in the end, and just continue for me to continue to play a mature innings in the middle there for the team.
And the veteran Jamaican batsman did not diminish the importance of his knock against the low-ranked Afghanistan side.
Making a 90 and a team win, it's very important, and it's very, it means a lot to me. So I think I rate it at the top, regardless of the team that I'm playing against, because I played 80, 85 against better teams. So I'll still put it at the top, because given the situation, if I got out there, you never know what could happen. So, give thanks, another good innings. So I definitely have it at the top as well.
Switching to netball now, Barbados made a clean sweep of their three-match series against Trinidad and Tobago when they conjured up yet another convincing performance to win the final match 44-40 in Couva Sunday night. For the third consecutive night at the National Cycling Centre, Barbados controlled the contest from the outset, made TNT chase the game and executed when it mattered most to register a comfortable victory. Ruskin Mark of C-Sport took in all the action and filed this report.
With nothing to lose in this, the final game of the three-test series, TNT started well and featured the new face of local netball in goal attack, Tahira Hollingsworth, who found her range early. And when she wasn't scoring, she could always rely on the experienced skipper, Julissa Cooper, who also started well and kept TNT in touch with the plucky Bajans. Cooper used all of her experience to get TNT going in this one. But there was always a reply from the Bajans, who were full of confidence, especially after their Jamaica exploits 2 weeks ago. And it showed as they moved the ball sweetly and in rhythm to secure some easy scoring opportunities for both shooters, especially goal attack Shaniqua Thomas, who had the hot hands early. But the impressive goal shoot, Shaniqua Wharton, was never out of the action for too long, and she popped up when the team needed her most, cashing in on a second chance here. But the fans were being mesmerized by the all-court play of Hollingsworth as the talented Polish star was making a name for herself. Also showing up big was another under-21 star in Shanisi Mangal, who was flying about the court to help set up plays for TNT, this one ending up in the hands of Cooper, who eventually got it in as TNT clawed their way back against the Bajans. But the real story was the emergence of Hollingsworth, who showed nerves of steel and a deadly accurate aim. But the Bajans always found a way to hit back, especially through the smarts of shooter Wharton. Over the 3 games, TNT showed great improvement all over the court, but still came up short against the Bajans, who are ranked well below them at the moment. But once things got close, the Bajans always had an answer and eventually eased the way to claim this one 45-49 in the end, with Wharton good for 31 of her 34, while Cooper hit on 23 of her 28 attempts, and Hollingsworth saw 16 of her 24 go in.
And that's the sport. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Caribbean Newsline is brought to you by the Barbados Tourism Marketing Inc.
Are you ready? Are you ready now? Hey! Saint Kitts! Are you ready? Yeah! Saint Kitts on Nevis, one! Hey! Tell me now! Are you ready for some rockers music?
Follow your heart to the 21st edition of the St. Kitts Music Festival from the 22nd to the 24th of June, featuring Shabba Ranks, Ultimate Rejects, The Boozman, Mobado, Jack Pure, DJ Private Riot, and back together again, Square One. Also performing Third Word, Voice, King Mighty Chalk Dust, Credence Clearwater Revisited, Ed Robinson, Ricardo Drew, Tedison John, Felicia Ross, Brianna D, Lyrical, and Goo Goo Dolls. For more information, log on to www.stkitsmusicfestival.net.
Again, the major developments of this day: prosecutors in Antigua and Barbuda assisting their Argentine counterparts in investigating a major international bribery scheme. And in sport, Windies deliver a whitewash to Afghanistan in their 3-match T20 International Series. That's Caribbean Newsline. For news and sport around the clock, log on to CondaNews.com. We'll be back here again tomorrow. But from all of us at CMC News, Thank you for watching. Do have yourselves a good night.